that, right? So we had discussed about array methods, right? Quick revision of them because they're extremely important. I'll just open sponsor3.html. We never use this much, but that's fine. Okay, so there were three that we discussed. Okay, the first one was called for each. The second one was called filter. The third was map. Okay, so what happens with for each? Let's just look at an array. So let's say that ARR equals this. Okay, for each it does nothing. It's just used to iterate over this array, right? So you keep going from one element all the way to the other element, right? Before I say that, quickly wanted to touch upon the concept of functional expressions. So what are functional expressions? Whenever you assign the value of a function to a variable, it's called a functional expression, or a function expression, as you like to call it, right? Each of the array methods, let's say array.filter, okay, what do they take in? They take a callback function, right? What is a callback function? It's basically either an anonymous function or a functional expression, right? So basically any function that you want to place here, you just place the name of that, which is the reference to that function. Okay, so filter, not filter first, for each, it takes a function. Okay, and this is called the callback function because JavaScript is going to call it back for every element in the array. Okay, so, and this function is a special type of function which has two arguments. Okay, so the first argument is EL, which is the element of the array. The second argument is I, or index. The names are again random. You can choose to give them whatever you want. Okay, so let's say I just want to simply print out every element of this array. I can write the code like this. Yes, right. So what it's going to do is it's going to go over each of the element of the array and just print that element. So let's just try to run this. And as expected, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. For each is clear. Any questions, guys, around callbacks, around functional expressions, anything that comes to your mind? Just taking a minute if there are any questions. Everyone is clear? Okay. Take care. Perfect. Perfect. Good to know. Okay. So for each looks like this. Second one was filter. Okay. We'll just take another example. In the case of filter, what happens is you have the same array, and let's say we just want to remove certain elements from it, right? So we had ARR, which was the array. Now here I'm going to say let ARR of evens is equal to, right? So now we know that this filter method, it's so a big difference between for each and all of the other array methods is that for each does not return anything, right? It does not return anything. So there's no value, it returns an undefined. But in case of filter, it returns a new array, right? So what I'm going to do here, guys, is ARR.filter EL, I, and what I'll return is only the numbers which are evens. Okay, so I'm just going to say here if EL %2, right, which means EL %2, the remainder after division, then return true. Okay, so I press enter, and now ARR of evens has all the even number from this array. Clear, guys? Clear? Good. Just to write this in a more concise manner, how I would actually write it when I'm coding, I would say this. Okay. It will be very nice if you're able to understand what I just write, okay? Because this is how I would write the code when I'm writing in my app, okay? I would just write this. That's it. That's all I'm going to write. The result is same. Can you understand this, guys? Can you understand this? Shubham, समझ में आ रहा है? Mayank? No, but that's not the point. If you look at it, what I have done is ना तो मैंने यहाँ पे is equal to 0 लिखा है, right? What I've simply done is I've put a not here. not operator. Mayank, can you explain this? Unmute पे आके, or Pradeep, whoever says yes first. Mayank, समझा दोगे एक बार? Or Pradeep, or Amit? Amit, you want to explain? Okay, Amit has not spoken in a few days, so go ahead, Amit.
Am I audible, sir?
Perfectly.
Okay. So in this function, I mean, in this statement, what we have written is we have taken ARR of, we have taken ARR. It
Yep.
has a few elements, and the elements would be odd even. So we need to take out the even out of that array.
Correct.
और उसको print करना है.
Yes.
तो आपने एक function बनाया, ठीक है? तो उसमें क्या किया? Let ARR of events. So ARR of events will make the ARR, I mean, will pull out events out of ARR. तो अभी क्या कर रहे हैं? ARR filter में elements डाल रहे हैं. किसका? ARR का elements डाल रहे हैं. And we are checking whether elements का modulus 2, मतलब उसको divide करने के बाद we are getting any remainders or not. Why we are getting any remainders or not? वो check कर रहे हैं because we have a not sign. Okay. तो जब रिमाइंडर नहीं आएगा, रिमाइंडर 0 आएगा, वो एलिमेंट्स ARR of events में स्टोर होता जाएगा.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, so guys, I'll just put it in slightly different words if someone did not understand. The not of 0 is true, right? And that's all we are doing, right? So if there's an element, let's say the element was 4, that when percentaged or modulized with 2, the answer it gives is 0, right? So the not of this guy is going to be true, right? So very smartly, what we did is we just wrote this code, EL not of 0, right? So for every even, we know that this guy is going to return 0, right? 0 ka not is true. And if it returns true, हमें पता है how filter works. For every element जहाँ पे filter true return करेगा, that will become part of your answer. Genius, right? Guys, समझ में आया या नहीं? No answers? Okay. Perfect. Okay. भारती को दोबारा बताते हैं. भारती, फिल्टर समझ में आता है आपको? फिल्टर कैसे काम करता है? Okay. तो फिल्टर का क्या मतलब होता है? That when you are going over elements of the array, if some element जहाँ पे भी that condition, right? Wherever this callback for whichever element this guy returns a true, that element becomes a part of the answer. ठीक है? तो हमने यहाँ पे कुछ नहीं किया. What we've said just this. Element पे जाओ, ठीक है? EL %2 देखो, right? So this guy is going to be 0 only for even elements. इतना समझ में आता है भारती? EL %2 will be 0 only for even elements. Okay. Not of that क्या होगा भारती? True होगा या नहीं? बोलो. That's it. So हर even element के लिए ये वाला जो expression है, if you look at this, ये true return कर देगा और वो elements इस answer का part बन जाएंगे. That's it. Clear? Guys, anyone having any doubts, पूछ लो, please. Are we clear, everyone? Yes. Okay, good. Okay, so we are clear with filter, right? And we are clear with for each, easy ones. Okay. Filter condition के लिए प्रतीक, मुझे समझ में नहीं आया आपका क्वेश्चन. If it's a question, if it's a statement, ठीक से लिखो एक बार. Okay, meanwhile I'll move forward. So we talked about for each, we talked about filter. Now I just want to quickly speak about map. Okay, so as the name suggests, एक mapping बनाता है from for going from this state of the array to this state of the array, right? And it returns the whole array, okay, as it is. So just building on this example. Okay. Let's say guys, हमें एक array बनाना था. So let's just first understand हमारा array दिखता कैसा है. Our array looks like this. Okay. So let's say I wanted to build an array, right? Where what I want to do is I want to get all the remainders of 3, right? इसका मतलब समझना. So what I want, the array, I have this array. इस array से I want to create an array which has the values, right, of each element divided by 3. I mean the remainder which they leave. So the answer that I'm looking for is when 1 is divided by 3, what is the remainder it returns? Anyone? 1. Perfect. 2 will give 2. 3 will give 0. 4 will give 1. 5 will give 2. 6 will give 0. 7 will give 1. Clear? This should be the answer. Does everyone understand that? Yes? So let's say I want to create this array from ARR. Can anyone help me with the code of that? Bharti, आप बताओगे? Okay. Shivam said first. Shivam, I'll unmute you. Just help me with the code. Go ahead, Shivam.
Hello.
Go ahead, Shivam.
Hi, sir. Okay,
Hi.
sir. Sir, AR dot map
Okay, wonderful.
and sir callback function
हाँ, उसमें क्या लिखना है?
element
Okay, ये लिख दो.
EL. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And then sir
Okay.
okay, and sir यहाँ हम condition दे सकते हैं element modulus if modulus 3
If थोड़ी ना होता है map
okay
में.
okay okay sir element modulus
Okay.
3.
That's it.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah.
So these answers are same, right? ये वाला answers are same. That's pretty much it, right? Yeah. Everyone understood? Okay. Okay. Now I want another thing from you guys. ठीक है? अभी के लिए this guy looks like this. Okay. Let's try a slightly more complicated example. Okay. Array वही था. Array was this, right? What I want to see is, right, I want to have this thing. I want an array which looks like this. Okay. Position 0, value will be 1, comma, position 1 value will be क्या था 2 था, position 2 value is, what was it, 0. Okay. So do you guys understand where I'm going with this? Whatever is the result of this array, right? I just want to represent it better. When I say represent it better, मुझे instead of this simple answer, I want it to look like this, right? So it becomes an array of objects where each object is representing that element का value modulus लेने के बाद. So it's going to be position 0, यानी कि position 0 पे now the value is 1, position 1 पे the value is 2, position 2 पे the value is 0. Everyone understood the question? Guys, does everyone understand the question? Can you help me with this? Anyone who wants to volunteer? Pradeep, you want to speak? Okay. Go ahead, Pradeep. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Pradeep.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Pradeep. How do we go
Sir.
about this?
Sir, we will replace the element modulus 3 expression by
पूरा
return.
बताओ Pradeep. Starting से बताओ पूरा.
Okay, sir.
Hmm.
Array dot map,
Okay, nice.
and then we will take a callback in which we will take element and index both हर row में.
दोनों लेंगे इस बार.
Yes, sir.
Okay, nice. Then
And we will return
hmm.
an object in which we place position colon element, position colon index, comma.
Nice.
Next thing is value colon I. Sorry, element.
एलिमेंट लेंगे या कुछ और लेंगे?
Element.
नहीं, एलिमेंट नहीं लेंगे. एलिमेंट से तो वो एरे आ जाएगा ना, हमें तो उनका मॉड्यूलस वाला वैल्यू चाहिए.
Okay, sorry, sir. Element modulus 3.
Perfect.
Oh,
Very nice. That's it. That's it. Nice one, Pradeep.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, did everyone understand? You guys are getting good at this year. Very good. कुछ भी नहीं था ना, objects create करना था, right? So हर बार when map is going to run over that element का index, what I've done is I've returned an object. Object में मुझे क्या चाहिए था? दो keys चाहिए थी, एक position चाहिए था, एक value चाहिए था. I know मुझे positions मिल जाएगा index से, so I said position column I know that I will get the value from the element का modulus, so I said value is element modulus 3. Does it work, guys? समझ में आ गया सबको? Okay, great. Is anyone finding this hard? Guys, किसी को मुश्किल लग रहा है क्या? Okay, ठीक है. So हमें map आता है, हमें filter आता है, हमें for each आता है, right? So now I'm going to go with the next one, right? Filter की बात समझ में नहीं आया. आरवी आप लास्ट क्लास में थे जब मैप सिखाया था? आप लास्ट क्लास में नहीं थे? तो आरवी वो लेक्चर देखो. इट वाज अबाउट द मैप वेरिएबल, राइट? ओके, नो वरीज. See, in that case, just go through the last lecture, okay, where we taught map, and then this will make more sense to you. Okay, what I'm going to do meanwhile is the next इसके बाद वाले जो functions हम cover कर रहे हैं, they will not be very related to map. Map is very simple. I'm sure एक बार देख लोगे तो you'll realize it. Yeah, I'll just copy this code to VS Code. This one I'll copy. बाकी सब तो लिखे हुए हैं, right? So in the last class, we did a couple of more complicated examples also. जो कार वाला एक example था, right? Okay. Nice. Now, what a few other important ones, okay? Before I do that, okay, no, actually. Didn't get your myth. क्या बोलना चाहते हो? 2D array is a different concept. This was not a 2D array. This was an array of objects. Okay. Okay. No, go on. If you want to make a point about 2D arrays. Okay. No. Okay. Fine. What is the difference between map filter and for each? Vinay, that's what I've been telling you, yeah. For the last two classes, what are you asking? Guys, does anyone want to answer Vinay's question? What is the difference between map, filter, and for each? कोई summarize करेगा? Anyone who wants to summarize? Okay. Okay. I'm looking for some third person because both of you have answered today. Okay, Sunny, you can go ahead. Go ahead, Sunny. Difference between map, filter, and for each. Okay, Mayank, आप बता दो. Well,
Hello, sir.
hi, Mayank.
I'm audible, sir.
Perfectly.
The difference between for each, filter, and map, sir.
Yes.
For each doesn't return anything.
Okay, and what does it do?
It just go over the element, go over the every element and return what is the condition.
Does not. आपने अभी बोला it does not return anything. तो फिर आप बोल रहे हो returns something.
But sir, it's not returning any array, sir, because filter and map returning a new array, sir.
Okay, and what does then क्या return करता है? For each.
For each, sir, is not returning anything, sir.
Okay.
It's undefined, sir.
Okay, so what does it do then? Point क्या है for each का?
So for each is go over the every element, sir.
Perfect. Then.
And then, sir, what is the inside the condition? It will go through like that, sir.
So don't say condition. What you're saying is it iterates over every element of the array. That's all it does, right?
Oh,
now, what you
okay.
want to do with that element, आपको log कराना है, you want to put some condition to log it or whatever. That's up to you, right?
Okay, sir.
It just goes over every element of the array. That's it. That's what for each does.
Okay, sir.
Right? And what is filter then? And how does it work?
So filter returning a new array when if we will give any condition true, then it will return only true conditions elements, sir.
Okay, just frame ठीक से करो इसको, बोल सही रहे हो, frame it correctly. How would you explain this to an interviewer? What is filter, Mayank?
So filter return an array.
Okay, that is fine. How does it work?
And sir, in filter, sir, we write a function, sir.
Okay.
And inside the function, if we give a condition.
Okay.
And then, sir, it's returned. What is the if we give true, sir, it's returned true only.
Okay. Again, let me put it in simple words. Bharti, you're pretty close. What is filter? Filter, just like for each, filter goes over every element of the array, right? And basically for whichever element, the filter function, the filter callback function returns a true, that element becomes a part of our result. Simple है ना?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
ऐसे बोलो ना. Interview में these things are going to matter. Okay.
Yes, I prepare for it.
Okay. So filter is clear. अब map भी बता दो क्या करता है?
Sir, map is also returning an array, sir.
Okay.
And inside the map, sir, we write a function, sir.
Map takes a function.
Yes,
right.
Sir. Takes a function, sir.
Okay.
And if we have a object, sir, we can, sir, take the
object मतलब ही नहीं मांगे यहाँ पे. It does not have to be an object. It can be a string, it can be a number, it can be whatever, right? It's an element of the array. कुछ भी हो सकता है ना?
Yes, sir.
तो फिर?
So if we want to extract anything, sir, then we use map, sir.
No. Shivendra has given the closest answer. See.
Okay.
Bharti, that also works. See, what is map? Map is used to traverse over each element of the array.
Okay,
and
sir.
transform that element into something else. It could be anything, right? So basically what map takes a transformer function, right?
Okay, sir.
And whatever you specify there and whatever you return from there, right? Map just takes it. So map kya hai, guys? If you look at it, map is just, imagine there's a box, right?
Yes,
every
sir.
element of the array is going to end. There is some transformation happening inside it and bahar transformed array aa raha hai, right? So it takes a transformation, which is given as a callback function, and it applies that transformation to every element of the array and returns a new array.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Okay.
So map and filter are. What are you saying here, Sunny? How are they same? One is filtering out or filtering in based on some condition, right? But map will always return the whole array without changing its size. Filter may or may not return the whole array. Okay, anyway, I'll move forward. So we talked about filter, map, and for each, okay? Let's ask Vinay who asked that question. Vinay, is it now clear? I don't know what S means, Vinay. Okay. So please repeat one more time. इरफान भाई सिंपल बात तो है, फिल्टर है, मैप है और फॉर ईच है. फॉर ईच गोज ओवर द कंप्लीट array और कुछ रिटर्न नहीं करता, बस एलिमेंट्स एक्सेस करता है. फिल्टर जिस भी एलिमेंट के लिए आपको कुछ कहीं जिस भी एलिमेंट के लिए यूजिंग व्हाटएवर कंडीशन यू वांट टू राइट, अगर आप ट्रू रिटर्न करा दोगे, इट विल ensure that element is part of the resultant array, right? Map के लिए it just goes over every element, and for that element you apply some transformation, कुछ भी लिखते हो, that becomes part of the new array. Okay, and now I'll move forward, and if it's still not clear, just watch the previous video. What next? We will talk about, okay, I have a lot of them, so I'll talk about find. Okay, find. So what does find do? Anyone? Condition का मतलब ही boolean होता है, RV sir. Do you know any other type of condition? A condition either evaluates to true or evaluates to false. कोई तीसरी चीज होती है RV? Correct. So how does find work? Find works by finding an element in the array, right? If the element exists, it will return that element. अगर वो element नहीं exist करता, so it's going to return. It's not going to return anything, right? Okay. So how does it work? Let's just try to understand it. Okay. So let's say I had an element of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now I wanted to check if this guy has a 7 inside it or not, right? Just by looking at the array, we know it's 7 nahi hai, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll say arr.find, okay, el. Again, same cheese data is a callback function, el, right? And then a condition, right? El is equal to 7, triple equal to is better, okay? It returned undefined. Why did it return undefined? Because 7 does not exist inside the array. If I say 3, it's giving me 3, right? It's just returning that element. We checked. So basically what you can say is, you can say if this is returning something, you know that element is there, otherwise it's not. And yahan pe you just specify the condition, right? So right now what you're looking at is an array of numbers. It will just work as well for array of cars, right? So again, how do I find the cars array? Do I have the cars array with me in my history? I don't. Does someone have the car array which I had given in one of the classes? Yes, Vidya Sagar, it's Areva, Siddiq is every time. Yes, Vidya Sagar, it's just like includes. The difference is includes में आप condition नहीं specify कर सकते, right? So let's say this is an array, okay? We'll take this example. So I want to check. I'll give you a question, everyone. In the cars array, tell me the name of the car which has 0 HP. Does anyone want to try this? Find the name of the car जिसका HP 0 है. We have a cars array, जो आपने देख लिया अभी, which looks something like this. I want you to find the name of the car which has 0 HP. Anyone volunteer? Yeah, someone volunteer. प्रदीप आपने भी बता दिया, शिवम आपने भी बताया, कोई और बोलो ना नया बंदा भाई. अमित तो एक्सपर्ट हो गया यार बहुत ज्यादा. Okay, anyway, I'll write it. So cars dot find, very simple, el element, or better practice is to write car because of cars mein don't have, right? Car dot hp. Hey Sweta, long time yaar. Itne dinon ke baad I'm getting an answer from you. And you get the whole car object, right? So now this might be making more sense to you guys, because when you just have numbers, right? Same number ke liye ढूंढ रहे थे, it's returning the same number doesn't feel very good. But in this case, you're able to get the name of, you're able to get the whole car object, right? So what you can say is dot name, right? Because this guy is going to return an object. I'll just save it to my car variable. So let my car is equal to this. And then I'll say console.log my car dot name. Everyone understood? Guys, everyone understood or not? Please say yes or no. Take care, Shweta, and watch the older videos. I'm sure you'll catch up jaldi se. Okay, perfect. So now we know how find works, okay? And we know where it can be useful, right? So guys, just like there is find, there is something else which is called as find index. Okay? So let's say you have, I'll just copy this example to VS Code so that we don't lose it. And that was the second one. I'll just copy cars array also. Okay, perfect. Right, what else? So just like there's find, there is find index also, right? And I'm sure you guys have already guessed what it does. So just replace this by index. And what it's giving you, it's giving you, hey, this element exists at the 5th index, right? Got it, everyone? Find and find index. समझ में आ गया ना guys? Very simple, right? Okay. Okay, perfect. Now, 2 more methods. The first one is called sum. Okay. So what does sum do? Sum ka point hota hai, guys. Okay, again, it takes a function in which there is a condition, and it's just going to check if some elements of the array are comply with the condition, right? Iska ye matlab hai, just like other functions, just like find, right? You're going to specify some value. So let me put it this way. So let's say you have an array, okay? The array looks like this, okay? And there is 1, 3 here, right? And there is 1, 2 here. So I'll just ask you a question. The question is there some element in the array which is an even number? Answer do koi? Yes? Yes? So how are you going to sort of perform this? Right? You can't up filter nahi laga sakte. Of course, you can put filter, right? You can say something like er.filter el %2 is equal to 0, right? And if the result if the result of this filter has a length, right? इसका मतलब आपको empty array नहीं मिला, so you can say that hey, उसके अंदर कोई element ऐसा था which was even. Got it? But a better way to do this, or a faster way to do this, is using sum. Okay, so you can just say arr.sum, right? And say el, same condition, el %2 is equal to 0. So it will return true if there is one or more than one element which satisfies this condition. Okay. If that was not the case, let's say this array was like this, then this guy is going to return false. Clear hai guys sabko? Okay. Let me ask you another question. So these are methods here which you use to analyze your data, right? So let's say you had data for 10,000 cars, right? So I'll just bring up my cars array again. So abhi ke liye there are just 7 cars, but there's a possibility that there were 10,000 cars, right? And you had to quickly check, hey, ऐसी कोई कार है क्या जिसकी which is a supercar. Supercar का definition क्या है? The HP is greater than 100, right? So this guy had names and HPs, right? So is there a car which has HP greater than 100? How do you check that? Amit, can you tell me the code for that? We want to check if some car has HP greater than 100. How should I write it? Can you just type it out? Amit, I'm waiting for you. Okay, others already answered. Cars.sum car dot HP. नहीं अमित, गलत है आपका आंसर. Sum is only going to return true or false. Okay, sum only returns true or false. It does not return the actual thing. Okay, so cars.sum car.hp is greater than 100. ये क्या करेगा? It will return true or false, and basis that you are going to know whether there was some element inside the array which is satisfying this condition or not. Okay. So just like there is sum, so you find the okay, yeah, that could also be one way to look at it. Sure, Amit, for example. Okay, now just like there is sum, there is something called as every, right? I'm pretty sure you guys have already figured out what this means. Okay, so जैसे sum का काम होता है to check if one of the element of the array, one or more element is satisfying the condition. Every का काम होता है to check if every element of the array is satisfying this condition. Okay, so let's say I want to check does every car in this data set have HP less than 10, right? So I can just say cars dot every car dot HP is less than 100, and it returns true. Oh, 100 or 10, whatever, right? It returns true. Is every car less than 5? The answer is false, because we know that एक car है जिसका 9 भी है, 7 भी है, 8 भी है, and right that way. Okay. Similarly, if you remember the array that we had, I want to check is every element of this odd. How can I write that code? Anyone? Tarun, Prateek. I want to check is every element of the array odd. How can I write that code? Code likho, yes mat likho. I want to check if every element in this array has is odd or not. Code likho Ajay, %2 mat likho. कहाँ पे 0 है? आरवी कौन सा बात कर रहे हो आप? Amit wrong, Priyanka wrong, Seth also wrong. Ankit correct. Pallavi also correct. Okay. So ARR dot every EL percentage 2. इतना भी तो ऐसा भी तो लिख सकता हूँ ना guys. This will also do it because because it's going to return 1, right? And 1 is true by default. And if I want to write it like this, I can do that also. Is this clear to everyone? So basically, this is a condition to check if every element in this array is odd or not. Is it clear, everyone? I'm just trying to get you guys to practice more today by writing code, practicing. अरे सादिक भाई पहले ये सुनो ना, आने दो ना डुप्लीकेट्स पे मुझे पता. Guys, are we clear on this one? Not is equal to the same as question mark. No, that does not make any sense. How can you do this, Ankit? What is the question? What is that going to return you? That's going to return if every element is even or not. How can you use it to check for odd or not? I'll tell you. अरे तो अंकित ये भी तो every से कैसे आप बताओगे? एक बात बताओ. Let's say there was even one element in the array which was even, right? Then also it will fail. What you have to check is if every element in the array is odd or not, right? That will also work, Shivam. That's also correct. Not equal to 0, equal to 1 is the same thing, right? In this case, otherwise nahi hota. Okay, car dot HP less than 5 showing false where HP 0. I don't know which one you are speaking of. आरबी किस में बोल रहे हो यार? I did I ever write HP less than 5? No, I wrote HP less than 10 ना यार. 5 थोड़ी ना लिखा था. This is what I wrote. HP is less than 5 is false. False ही तो बोल रहा है आरबी. Problem क्या है? तो false ही तो बोल रहा है. There are cars with HP less than 5. So इसमें problem है क्या आरबी? So is 0 not less than 5? अरे बाबा, so it's the condition तो पढ़ो. Condition है क्या? हर एक कार का HP less than 5 है. Is that true or not? It's not true because there are some cars with higher HPs. इसका 9 है, इसका 7 है, इसका 8 है. इसमें if you put some, that will give true. There are some cars जिनका HP less than 5 है, but not every car has HP less than 5. Correct. सबको समझ में आ गया ना guys? What RV just asked. Are we clear, everyone? आगे चलें? Okay, wonderful. Let me just check what is next in your syllabus. I'm just opening the syllabus, guys. Just give me a second. Okay. You have reduce also. We'll cover reduce now. Okay, so every The next one is reduce. Probably the most complicated one, as people say. I don't know what is the complication in this, and the most versatile one. Okay, versatile क्यों बोल रहा हूँ? Because using reduce you can literally do anything. Okay, so reduce or reduction basically means you take an array, right? You go over each of the element of that array, and then you convert it into whatever you want. Okay, so it's slightly tricky, guys. तो ध्यान से सुनना. In the reverse function, if you want to keep the sentence unchanged but reverse the word, अरे यार reverse का काम होता है array के सारे elements को reverse करना. Neither it knows about sentences nor it knows about words. If you are asking a specific question. Okay, guys, focus करें थोड़ी देर अब reduce पे. Okay, ठीक है. Chat पे लिखना बंद करो, ध्यान से सुनो, complex है थोड़ा. Okay, so consider a use case. Okay, I'll just cover simple examples here, and as we keep moving into deeper things like React, let's say, वहाँ पे we'll cover this in more complexity. Okay, because this is very versatile. Believe me, I have interviewed people with 4 years of experience in JavaScript, and they still get this one wrong. Okay, but you will not. Okay, so let's go. So guys, reduce क्या होता है? Of course, it's an array method, right? I'll just take an array. I have an array. Okay, I have this array. Okay, so what reduce does is arr.reduce. Okay, it also takes a callback function, right? But now, अभी तक आपने जो भी callback functions देखे, what all do they have? They have element, they have index, right? Two parameters in the callback function, right? But this guy has 4 parameters. Okay, let's just understand them for 1 second. Okay, so reduce has 4 parameters in the callback function. Okay. The first one is called accumulation or ACC. The second one is the EL, जो कि आपका element था. The third one is index, and the fourth one is the whole array itself. Okay. सबको समझ में आया? So it takes 4 parameters instead of 2. Okay. The first one is, I'm saying this again, is the accumulation, right? The second is element, third is index, the fourth is array, right? I'm pretty sure ये दोनों हमें समझ में आते हैं, right? Because we've used them so many times. The fourth is array, right? Which is new. So what happens in the case of reduce is it's capable of providing the same array at every time the callback runs. Okay, example से समझते हैं. Okay, so I'm going to say arr.reduce callback function होगा यहाँ पे. The callback function is going to have something called ACC. इसके बारे में भी भूल जाओ. EL, I, and ARR itself. Okay, let me call it ARR2 because you're actually inside the ARR. Okay, I'm just going to do this. I'll just log. I'll just say console.log EL, I, ARR2. ठीक है? Let's just see the result of this, and we will बताऊंगा ना शिफम रुको ना भाई, and just look at the result of that. Okay, let's understand यहाँ पे क्या हुआ. So you got 1, which is expected because the first element was 1. यहाँ पे भी you got 1 and da da da. So EL is fine. I is also fine because I is basically the index, right? So this was 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just kept moving forward, right? Finally, आपको दिख रहा है ARR2, right? So what is ARR2? The fourth argument in reduce function is basically the array, right? I'll show you, Amit, don't worry. Let me take a simple array ताकि आप लोग समझ जाएं इसको. What I'm trying to tell you here. Let me tell you. Just give me a second. So if you're looking at this, what are you seeing? You see 2 at 1. You see 3 at 2, right? So what is happening is it's not like वो ऐसा नहीं बोल रहा है, it's starting from that. It's just saying that it skipped that. Okay. Guys, am I making sense? Okay. I'll go very slow. ठीक है, समझते हैं. Don't worry. We'll take care of that. Okay. So in ARR.reduce, we have 4 parameters. एक step by step चलना मुझे सुनते हुए, ठीक है? What are those 4 parameters? I told you ACC, जिसके बारे में let's forget right now. The second is the element. Third is I. Second is the array itself. I को भी भूल जाओ एक बार के लिए. Just understand these two. Right? Are we able to understand these 2 parameters of reduce function? So let's say I press enter. What happens is this prints and this prints. ठीक है? Just be very cautious. The first element did not print. ठीक है? Okay. Now the first thing that I want to cover is the reduce function itself. It takes 2 parameters. ठीक है? अब तक for each था, map था, filter था. They were just taking one callback function, right? Right? Are we clear on this? They were just taking one callback function as their parameter. ठीक है? Reduce takes 2 parameters. Okay. The first parameter is of course the callback function. हमने वही लिखा है. And the second parameter is something called as the initial value. Right? So let me just specify 0 यहाँ पे for now. Okay. And let me just hit enter again. Did you see what happened, guys? Now 1 भी print हुआ, 2 भी print हुआ, 3 भी print हुआ. Right? Okay, guys, did you see? Now we are iterating over every element of the array. Okay. So now let's move to the other things. Okay. Now I'll explain you I and I'll explain you ACC. Okay. So the way it works is ACC का मतलब होता है accumulation. Okay. So what reduce function does is वो एक value maintain करता है over every callback, which is called ACC. ठीक है? So this is one callback that you've written for the function, है ना? And we know how many times this callback function is going to run. We know it's going to run 3 times because there are 3 elements in the array, right? Every time you make some change to this ACC element, यहाँ पे, reduce function is going to remember it in the next cycle. मतलब समझना. What I am going to do here is, ध्यान से guys, I'll just say here, ACC is equal to ACC plus EL. Okay. ठीक है? And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to log console.log ACC and I'll just remove these 2. Okay. I'll press enter and just see what happens. Oh, forgot to put a dot there. See what is happening. The value of ACC for the first time was 1. Q. I'll explain. And each time, other time it became nan. Okay. So what is going on, right? What is going on is whatever the reduce function returns in the first callback, in every callback, ACC का value वही बन जाता है. Okay. So I'm going to say here return ACC. Okay. Now see what happened. Each time, okay, and I'll say ACC or index I. Enter. So what went here, guys? It said 1 for index 0, 3 for index 1, 6 for index 2, right? Now let's finally understand what has happened. ACC, like I told you, is the return value of the reduce function ka callback. right? It does not necessarily have to be add. Ruk Chobi, don't say things. Ruko Shivam. It does not necessarily have to mean add. What it means is whatever you return, right? It becomes the value of ACC for the next iteration. Okay. So when you were at the 0th index, the initial value of ACC is the one which you specified as the second argument. Okay, let me write that again. I told you what array.reduce takes 2 arguments. Pehla is this callback function yahan tak, and the second value is basically the initial value of ACC. Okay. Then what I'm doing is the first time this thing runs, the value of ACC is 0. Why is it 0? Because हमने यहाँ पे specify किया, right? What I did is I added 1 to it. Okay, so ACC became ACC plus EL, right? Which means 1. Okay, so that's why it logged 1, right? I returned ACC. Okay, so the next time it's going to run, the loop is going to run, ACC is going to get a value of 1. Okay, now you are on index 2, right? I again said ACC is equal to ACC plus EL, right? So 1 plus 2 is 3. So we log ACC for index, 3 for index 1. And what did we return? We returned 3, right? Whatever you return in this reduce callback becomes the next value of ACC. So what is happening is this: 1 for index 0, 3 for index 2, and 6 for index 2. Made sense, guys? Don't worry, I'll explain it again also many times probably. Was someone able to make a sense? There is no not a number, Shubham यहाँ पे जो सामने लिखा है वो देखो यार. I will repeat it again. Is there anyone जिसको समझ में आया? थोड़ा सा आ गया ना, बस थोड़ा सा ही कराना था. अरे don't worry, repeat तो I know. We'll repeat it. Okay, 50% is good. Okay. Okay, let's rewrite it starting sir. Okay, we have an array 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, what happens is I want to reduce this to something. Okay, the reduce array function takes a callback function and an initial value. दो चीजें लेता है guys. The callback function happens to take 4 parameters and the initial value can be anything, right? अभी के लिए मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ? I'm just putting a 0 there. Okay, now inside of this callback function, it's going to take 4 parameters. Like I said, one is ACC, which means accumulation. The second is EL, जो आपको already पता है, element of the array. The third is I or index, and finally you have the array itself, right? So I'll just denote it with underscore ARR. Okay. Now in this callback of reduce, what is going to happen is it gets the value of ACC each time it runs. Okay. And the initial value of ACC या फिर जो accumulation है is specified यहाँ पे. Okay. So right now, जब वो first time run होगा, what are you going to get? You're going to get, guys, you're going to get, anyone? 0, correct. You're going to get 0. Perfect. सबको समझ में आ गया. Nice. Okay. The next time जब वो अगले index के लिए चलेगा, so I'm just going to say here for index so that everyone understands. Index, and I'll print the index here, right? So what are we going to get for index 0? The value is 0. Okay. The next time it runs, okay, it's going to get whatever value you return from here. Okay. अभी 1 नहीं है श्वेता. अभी अगर करोगे, it's only going to get undefined. Okay. Let's try that out. By the way, I just hit enter, guys. देखना क्या होता है. पहली बार में 0 आ गया because initial value was 0. बाकी सबके लिए undefined आया. Undefined क्यों आया, guys? ध्यान से समझना. Because we did not return anything from here. Okay. And accumulation का क्या मतलब होता है? It's accumulating things inside it, right? So at every call of the function of the callback, whatever you return gets accumulated. Okay. So what I'm going to return now is I'll say return ECC plus EL. Okay. So let's understand what will happen now. You will get ECC for index the 0th index, you will get 0 because that was specified here. The next time you are going to get 1 because ACC was 0, EL is 1, so 0 plus 1 is 1. The next time it runs is going to get 1 for index 1, right? Then you will return 1 plus EL, which is 2. So for the next one, you're going to get 3. And that's how you keep going, right? So I press enter here, see what happens. This and 10 for 4, right? I'll just explain what is this thing. Don't worry about it. Guys, making more sense now? Guys, abhi don't make any conclusions. मैं बताऊंगा ना. What I'm asking you is it making more sense? Are we getting comfortable with it slowly? Okay. Now let's get back to it. Okay. What does let's try to answer a few questions. Okay. So what does ARR.reduce return? Okay. ARR.reduce returns the value of ACC. Okay. Now this value of ACC is what you can. So how is reduce different from everything else? It's different because this ACC parameter, right? ACC parameter can change on every iteration. Okay. Let's say आपके पास array था. You know what array is already, right? ARR is simply 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So on the first iteration, right, whatever you return becomes the value of ACC for the next iteration, right? फिर से बोलता हूँ, whatever you return in this iteration. So when I'm saying iteration, what I mean is we know that this callback, right, is going to run for every element of the array, which is called one iteration, right? So for one wala iteration, it's going to return something that will become the value of ACC for the next iteration. So whatever you return for the iteration of 1, it becomes the new value of ACC in 2. Whatever you return here becomes the new value in 3. Whatever you return in 3 becomes the new value in 4. And whatever you return after 4 becomes the final result of reduce. So what does reduce return at the end? It returns the accumulated value or the ACC. Make sense? Make sense, guys? Guys, is it making sense? Okay, so by this code that I have written here, एक बार इसको dry run करके देखते हैं, guys, what happens? Okay, so with me, ARR.reduce takes two parameters. First parameter is this function, right? Second parameter is the initial value of accumulation or of ACC. तो हमने क्या बोला? The initial value is 0. We gave it that value. Okay. I'm just going to remove this. Okay. So what does this function return? पहली बार में, it returns ACC plus EL, right? What is EL right now? EL is 1. Okay. So when it is running for 1, okay, let me just write running for EL. Okay. When it's running for 1, which is the first element of the array, it's going to return 0 plus 1, which is 1. Okay. What happens is, since you returned 1 here, the next time this is going to run, this ACC is going to get the value which was returned by its parent, which was 1. So right now it's going to get 1. Okay. Right now it's running for 2. When it's running for 2, ACC is 1 and EL is 2. So you return 3. Okay. So when I'm running for 3, I say running for EL, which is this guy, and I'm returning 3. So the value of ACC is 3. Okay. This time I return 3 plus 3, which is 6. Okay. This value 6 that I return becomes the value of ACC in the next iteration. So when you're running for 4, right, what are you returning? EL is 4 and ACC is 6, right? So the final value which ARR.reduce is going to return is 10. Enter 10. Do we understand this now? No, the first value of ACC can be whatever you make of it, right? Abhi ke liye humne 0 rakha, guys. I can make it 10 also, or I can make it 9 also. Let's say I make it 10. The final value is 20. Okay. Most of the time, you will not be using the index yahan pe or the ARR yahan pe. So people typically just use 2 arguments in here. Okay. So you don't need to write the index or the ARR. But the point is that at every step of going through reduce, you can have access to your array inside this function, and you can also, of course, have access to the index. Index to sabhi mein hota hai, so what to talk about it? Right? So again, repeating this, what is ACC? ACC is the value returned by this callback across iteration of elements, right? So when you're iterating on the first element, ACC has this initial value. When you're iterating on the next element, ACC has the value which was returned previously, right? And that's how you keep going. Yes, Vishal, that's one way to put it. It's the initial value of ACC, or it's the initialization value of ACC. Won't I exactly call it initialize, because it's a function call. Use of ACC, Amit, reduce is all about ACC, right? Uska reason ye hai because what does reduce return, right? If someone asks you the question, it returns this parameter at the end, right? And how does this parameter change? It changes across iterations. Amit, did you get it now? Increase होना जरूरी नहीं है, decrease भी हो सकता था. The point is ACC का value can change per iteration, right? And the value of ACC per iteration depends on what was returned by the previous iteration. So what is the result of reduce? The result of reduce is the final value of ACC, right? That's how you should understand it. Yes, Sweta. So very good question. The way it works is, if you're not specifying the if you're not specifying the second value or the initial value, the way reduce works is it assumes this guy to be ARR of 1 and not ARR of 0. Okay, because while I'm calling it EL, it's actually the current element, right? So this is how reduce works. Reduce thinks that you want to return the final accumulated value only, right? So it is not really meant for printing the index. Okay, it's basically for finding out an accumulation, right? And the way it works is, if you do not specify the 0, right, the ACC will automatically become the first value of the array. Okay, so guys, please understand this. What I have done here is I have removed that 0. Now, if you console.log ACC, right, what you're going to get is EL is not fine. Okay. The answer is still 10. Okay. Why is it 10? Because now ACC was never 0. Okay. Since we did not specify anything, ACC ka default value was the first element of the array, which is 1. Okay. So the way reduce works is it thought, hey, I don't have to look at this now. I'll only iterate for these 3 elements. I'll start my looping or iteration for these 3, right? And when you specify 0 here, what happens? See, this time there were 4 statements printed running for 0, 1, 3, and 6. And when you did not specify a value, running for 1, 3, and 6. Sweta, clear? Hai? Sweta, is it clear now? It's not necessary. If you do not specify it, there are too many usages of it, Amit. Believe me, especially when trying to accumulate objects, transformations. I'll come to those. It's an advanced use case, so I just wanted to introduce this to you guys right now. Okay. Okay. But the concept is only this, okay? So while the use cases for reduce are fairly large, right? The point is the way it works is it goes over each of the element, and whatever is the value of ACC returned in the current iteration becomes the value of ACC in the next iteration. And if you're at the end of the array, the value of ACC returned wahan pe becomes the final value. So it's part of Node.js. Shubham, do you know what Node.js is? If you know a little bit, or if you do not know much about it, why are you bringing it up here? Don't talk these things now. Why confuse everyone? When I'll teach you Node.js, tab pad lena. So we may store the ACC values per iteration and get to extract or other allied things. You're not storing it anywhere, Amit. The way you should think of it is, like I said, you are passing it in every iteration, right? And then finally, whatever you want to do with it, you do with it. If we give a random number, then 0. So, like I said, Sweta, the second variable right here is the initial value of ACC, right? If you put 100 here, that's also fine. You can put anything. But the point is, if you specify the initial value, this guy is not going to run. Okay. Sir, if I wish to get the element in the above example when ACC has increased 2 times, I did not understand. I did not understand your thing. Okay, sure. Guys, so a very basic example of reduce. If I have to take another example, I'm just thinking. Maybe that will work. Okay, so let's just take another example. So like I said, reduce is very versatile, right? It can allow you to construct anything, right? So let's say if you just look at this ARR, what I want right now is I want to extract all the odd numbers from it. Okay, let's try to implement that. Okay, so I want to extract them to an array. Okay. So basically this time what I'm looking for is not a sum or anything. What I want is I want to return an array of all the odd numbers. Okay. So of course the initial value of ACC is going to be an empty array. Okay. Okay, guys. Then what I'll do is on each element, I'll check, hey, if the current element is odd, right? If the current element is odd, what I want to do is I want that to become I want to add that to ACC, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll say ACC dot push current element, okay? And then I'll just return ACC on every step. Okay, let's see what is the result that we get. We get 1, 3, 5, and 7. Okay, so एक बार समझते हैं कैसे काम, how it must have worked. So I'm giving this empty array. So ACC becomes that empty array. Okay, then of course it's going to go over each of these elements 1, 3, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wherever we saw that, hey, the element is odd, I just said ACC dot push current element. So let's understand. First time mein kya tha, ACC was an empty element. It looked at 1. Hey, is 1 an odd number? Yes. So empty array dot push current element becomes an array which has 1. Okay. And you returned ACC, which means jab wo 2 pe gaya, so it was an array with 1. Okay. But 2 pe nothing got satisfied here. So it returned ACC as it is, which was an array with 1. Then it went to 3, right? It saw that, hey, 3 is an odd number. So you did ACC dot push 3. So now what your array has, it has 1 and 3. And you returned ACC. It went to 4. 4 mein nothing worked. You went forward, and that's how you keep iterating. And finally, you got 1, 3, 5, and 7. अरे प्रतीक भाई रुक रहा हूं ना, concept तो बीच में समझाओ ना यार. What I'm talking about. Will you let me complete that? Guys, please don't interrupt here when I'm explaining something. People are trying to learn here. I have no intention of keeping you or overloading you with anything. But I can't stop midway when I'm explaining something, right? Okay, why push? Because every time that you're iterating here, what you're getting is you're getting the ACC array, right? If there's an odd number that you're on, you should push that to the array and then return the ACC, right? Because what we are looking for final is that array. So, okay, what happens if we do not return ACC? If you do not return ACC, what will happen is it will by default return undefined. Okay? And what is going to come in the next iteration of the array? It's going to be undefined. ACC kya hai? ACC is a variable which gets persisted or which gets taken from one iteration to the other iteration. So you keep moving from iteration on iteration with that ACC. But if you do not push, then what are you going to get out of this, Adam bhai? अगर push ही नहीं करोगे तो फिर what is going to happen? एक खाली array return हो जाएगा आपको last में. If you remove this, right? If you remove this, not this, if you remove these two lines, what is going to happen? You're going to end up with an empty array. ACC means accumulated value, accumulation. What do you accumulate across every iteration? I'm stopping here, but if you have any doubts, just continue. No, it's not fast, but it's versatile. So right now you're just playing with numbers and all these things. You will of course use filter. You guys wanted me to cover a use case of it, so I brought this up. Guys, if you have any questions, ask. I'll just push this code meanwhile. code is already pushed. Example kal leta hu yaar Adam, aaj it's getting overloaded for you guys. You can explain ACC in a definite way for interview perspective. I will tomorrow. So if possible, if you may explain round a bit, if possible. I'll be covering round later, so don't worry.